This is a map of the world. But so is this. Although it's oriented south up, this is no less valid or correct than what we just saw. We're just used to seeing the other map more because it's just the convention that we're used to. There's nothing inherently up about north.
At this point, you're probably, and rightfully, wondering what any of this has to do with ancient Egypt. Well, as usual, we may take a meandering route to get there, but I promise you there's a really good point to this, and it's a fascinating one. Hi everyone, I'm Arto, I'm an Egyptologist, I answer your ancient Egypt questions. And recently, a friend of mine asked me about what the words for right and left were in Egyptian. Now, to clarify, Egyptian is the term linguists use to refer to the language that's native to Egypt. Its latest phase, called Coptic, died out in just the 14th century AD, around about. Also, that language, although dead, is still in use today as the liturgical language of the Coptic Church, Egypt's native church. And if that sounds familiar, well, that's because it's just like Latin, which, although a dead language, is still used today as the liturgical language in Catholicism. What you're seeing here is an extremely prestigious title that was held only by the tip top of ancient Egyptian society. In transliteration, here's what it looks like. Transcribed, it reads, Chai Hu Herwenemi en Nisut. Now, I should tell you that this is not in fact how it was actually pronounced, but if you want to find out more about that, check out this video. Translated, this title reads, Fan-bearer on the right side of the king. As the wording suggests, this individual, the incumbent of this office, was so trusted by the king that he could stand beside him, with the king fully knowing that this individual meant him no harm. Conversely, this individual was extremely important because he had direct access to the person of the majesty of the king. As fascinating as all of that is, what I want to draw your attention to, as you might imagine, is the word here for right or right side. And that there is expressed with the hieroglyph that looks like a flagpole with a feather on it. Here it is circled. So here's a close-up of that hieroglyph. Like I said earlier, this is the main hieroglyph used in the writing of the word wenemi, which means right side. It also means west side. This same hieroglyph is also the main symbol, the main hieroglyph used in the writing of the word imenet, which also means right side and west side. As a cool side note, the word wenemi, right side, is etymologically related, meaning it shares the same origin or comes from the verb that we see here. Wenem, meaning to eat. As you can see, the last hieroglyph there, it's called a determinative. Basically, it doesn't stand for a sound, but it categorizes the word. So it's used for eating, drinking, tasting, smelling, speaking, and so on. So, what does wenem have to do with wenemi? Well, think about it this way. Wenemi is like an adjective. It's an adjective version of this verb. Right side and to eat though? Well, yeah, scholars in fact believe that this word means your eating hand. Your right hand is your wenem hand. So, the right hand is the hand you eat with, so it's your wenemi. Okay, so back to the whole right side and west side thing. Aside from wenemi, the other word that we covered that also means that exact same thing is imenet. And here it is written in hieroglyphs. And this word, imenet, you'll be very pleased to find out, is in fact etymologically related. It shares the same root as the Arabic word, yamin. And just like imenet in Egyptian, the Arabic word yamin also means right. With a crucial difference though. Whereas imenet could mean also west side, in Arabic, just like in the modern West, when you say right side, you don't think west. You would in fact think east. So why is there that crucial difference then? Okay, so here's what we think of when we picture the cardinal points, right? North is up, south is down, east is on the right, and west is on the left. However, like we saw earlier with that upside down map, there's nothing inherently up about north or down about south or indeed right about east. So, if we were to just look at this just differently, it would look like this. However, if you were in a culture that did not orient itself towards the north like we do in the modern West, in the Middle East, and so on, it would look actually, we should modify this ever so slightly for it to look like this. And actually, that is what the ancient Egyptians themselves did. They did not orient themselves towards the north. They oriented themselves towards the origin point of the main source of life in Egypt, the Nile. Without it, Egypt would be a barren desert. And for that reason, the ancient Egyptians oriented themselves towards where it came from, the south. And there you have it. You have this river that goes exactly north-south, cleanly dividing the land into east and west. And just like that, we have a fascinating example of how the geography of a given region and therefore its culture influenced the way they oriented themselves. So, by extension, if your main orientation is towards the south, then by extension, if that's up, then therefore your west would be on your right-hand side. Hence, wenemi and imenet. These two words not only mean right side or right-hand side, but also by extension, west side. And that is why, whereas in Egyptian, wenemi and imenet both mean right side and west side, in Arabic, it just means right or right side. It doesn't have that west meaning, because in Arabic culture, you orient yourself toward the north. Therefore, east is on your right side, and west is not on your right side, it's on your west side. Now, before you go, one last round of bonus fact. It is around the year 1500 BC. Egypt has recently emerged out of a period of turmoil, and it is re-establishing its military presence on the international political landscape. King Thutmose I went farther into the northeast, basically in the ancient Near East, think Lebanon, Syria, farther than any ancient Egyptian ever had before. And there, he encountered some very strange things indeed. When he came back to Egypt, he recorded some of his achievements, but also some of the strange things he saw as well. In the key passage that concerns us here, he wrote, "That water that goes in reverse, going downstream and going upstream." So what does that mean? A river that goes in reverse, going downstream instead of going upstream or in going upstream? Well, think about it. To the ancient Egyptians, they only knew that one river, the Nile, which flows south to north. So there, they encountered a river that actually flows the other way. They encountered a river that flows north to south. And scholars believe that this river, the river in question here, is the Euphrates. How cool is that? To the ancient Egyptians, a people who their only frame of reference being the Nile, they were dumbfounded by the fact that they encountered a river that flowed north to south. And, cool fact, little did they know that in fact, it is the Nile that is the exception to the rule. Because now we know that most major rivers in the world actually flow north to south, not like the Nile, south to north.